Welcome everybody to the Lian Li case review. This is a new series that we're doing here at Artesian Builds where I, much like Doug DeMuro, will take you through all of the quirks and features of all of the cases that we use, all the unique cases that come into our workshop, everything from the crazy $5,000 Winbot to the Lian Li boat cases, the Asa pyramids, our small form factor cases we've designed ourselves. We are going to go and look at all of the amazing parts, the not amazing parts, all the weird parts, and really get an in-depth overview of what it means to build a PC in every case that we sell. This is a Lian Li O11 Dynamic. It's the regular size version, and this is the white version. It's powder coated steel throughout with some small aluminum accents on the front or possibly stainless steel, unknown. It's constructed with rivets, which means it's very hard to disassemble and you can't really mod it very easily. And it uses removable dust filters that look just like this throughout. You've got one here on the bottom, underneath the bottom fans. You've got one on the top of the top fans, and then you've got a pair in the back as well, which help ventilate the power supply area and the side fans. So a whole bunch of these removable dust filters with magnets. I find these magnets rather weak. They're not my favorites. This filter easily pops out from the bottom where it's free floating and held in by small clips on the underside of the case feet. I don't really love this design. You can see how this is supposed to fit right here. This is not a very effective way to hold a dust filter in. I would love to see this be a slide-in filter with a hard plastic casing, as a lot of other manufacturers do. However, the top one and the side filters are very, very easy to stay in because they're closed off by these panels. Removing the top panel is accomplished by twisting 2 screws on the back and then pulling the panel latches in with these metal nubs on the top, and those have corresponding slits in the top of the case where they can find their homes. It's a good locking system. It's not perfect. It can be a little fiddly. If everything isn't manufactured perfectly, this can have a tough time sliding into place, so keep that in mind. Very, very occasionally, you'll see a case with an actual problem in it where the case really doesn't want to close on the top, but usually it's okay. Pretty good paint quality. I see good consistency here in these things. Very, very, very occasionally, the thin metal of the back panel can be slightly deformed, and you have to push in on this panel to get the GPU to line up with the rear PCIe slots to screw in your GPU. No real issue. It is vertical mount compatible as well here. Lian Li makes their own vertical mount. Other ones from companies like Fantex are also compatible here in the back of the case. It fits full ATX motherboards, of course, and even eATX motherboards with no additional height support on the bottom. So those super extended SSI EEB boards that are very, very deep should not be used on this. Those do fit in the XL version of this case. So you can fit a very, very big motherboard. It's of course ITX, MATX, and full ATX, as well as eATX. Long ways compatible, although you will start to overtake some of your rubber grommets on the side, making cable routing here much more challenging if you are using an eATX form factor motherboard. I would stick with regular full ATX here. You've got a good amount of room up above the motherboard to route cables, even if you do have even a potentially very, very thick radiator, which means this has pretty good water cooling support in 3 places, obviously. There's no back fan support. This is just ventilation. We stick our branded magnets here, of course, on our cases, but you have 3x120x3 compatibility. So you can have 360 radiators, even in push-pull on the top, on the side, and on the bottom, meaning this has really, really incredible high-grade compatibility with a lot of air cooling and a lot of liquid cooling. A lot of our customers will get a 360mm AIO here at the top. You can see the Z7 III cooler here, and then 3 fans showing off all this beautiful RGB. Here we've put in a 3080 with Corsair QL fans, Lian Li streamers, whatever you want to call them, on the motherboard. 24-pin, and some beautiful Corsair RGB RAM, all sitting on an X570 Pro motherboard. Sort of a white theme build, pretty common here in this case. The front has a beautiful glass panel seen here. The glass panel, just like the metal panels fits in with small metal nubs. I'll demonstrate that right now. You line up the panel as so, and as long as those nubs on the top fit in, and as long as the feet on the bottom fit in, this glass is basically glued onto a metal rigging, and that metal frame allows you to easily slide it in pretty reliably. Very, very occasionally they'll show up with damage to the glass in the corners, so be cautious when you get these cases. Make sure to check the glass for any sharp edges. Really don't want to cut yourself when you're working with these things. That's how the front fits on. It's not a frosted cast. I've seen clearer glass than this, but it is generally a pretty clear cast. There's no green or blue or yellow tinting to it. If you see any color issues, there's just a plastic sheet on this that we're keeping on to keep the glass from getting scratched. Here on this front panel, I've removed the plastic so you can see the actual full form. There is a piece of plastic on the back, however. It's much, much smoother, so you're getting a good perspective of what this looks like. And on the front, it fits in the exact same way. You still have good visibility. I'll remove this top panel a little bit, and once again, put in the feet to the bottom. They're gonna lock into place. Then we'll just carefully move it upward and slide in these lashes at the top. Those little metal nubs will fit into corresponding slots. You make sure all three fit in, and then your glass will always slide in properly. That little red sticker on the front is just a sticker. It can be removed with the inner plastic if you'd like. Some people don't know that. There is a layer of plastic here on both sides of the side panel, so be sure to remove that when you're working with this case, unless you don't want to. I don't know why. That would be weird. We'll go ahead and put the top panel back on here in a hot second so you can see a little bit of how it's supposed to normally look. Just locks into place, like I said. So one of my major complaints with this case is that the bottom fans are going to block some of your access to the bottom motherboard headers. Things like your front panel, your fan connectors, your RGB controls, USB 2.0, HD audio, even sometimes USB 3.0. At the bottom, with a USB 3.0 header at the bottom of your motherboard for full ATX size, you cannot plug in a traditional USB 3.0 header. That will be incompatible with bottom fans. If you have no bottom fans, then you're fine. But you should expect to convert that to a USB 2.0 or find a special splitter or a special adapter cable that enables you to use the USB 3.0 on this case for bottom USB 3.0 motherboards. Otherwise, it won't work. There's another quirk over here in the front I/O where the USB 3.1 Type-C is a right-angled port. So if your USB 3.1 Type-C header on your motherboard is not facing the direction that most are off the side of the board in that vertical orientation, if you have a horizontal Type-C header on your board, or it's for some reason backwards, then this right-angled Type-C connector will not work, and you will lose your front panel USB-C. So think about that as well. Really pay attention to the board you're going to put in. Do not select this case if you're worried about that compatibility, or prepare yourself to use some sort of splitter adapter type thing if you don't want to lose those front I/O if you have a weird motherboard that may not be compatible. Happens sometimes. Most motherboards won't be an issue. You'll see the 3.1 and 3.0 headers on the board over on the right side, where Lian Li, of course, expected them all to be. They just aren't always there, even on very high quality boards, such as this one. Let's look at the top here. I love this about the case, although I wish it was a little bit different. You have a full, almost 2 inches of space underneath a radiator and fans above your motherboard, making it super, super easy to plug cables from your AIO, from anything over here, such as your CPU header, your EPS connector rather. So you can easily get those cables out through this big grommet at the top, which is really excellent. I think there's a weak spot in that we lost space on the bottom. Even an additional ½ inch at the bottom would have been enough to not have issues with those bottom headers I was discussing earlier. So if you'd moved the board up instead of ½ inch and just made this space a little bit smaller, which would have been fine, you would have avoided those bottom compatibility issues, and I really would have preferred that on this case. That's pretty much all there is to say about the front. You can fit a normal amount of hardware in here. You of course have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 PCIe slots, pretty standard stuff. But again, you should expect not to have the bottom available. So certainly anything like a lot of GPUs would not fit in this case. You should not anticipate fitting a whole bunch of expansion cards below your GPU, as they would slam into things like your bottom fans here if you're configuring it that way. Over on the back, let's see if we can leave this plugged in the whole time. You're going to see a little area here. You can unscrew this little piece and you can easily reach. These are not hot swap, but these are sort of toolless drive bays. You can screw in either SSDs or HDDs to these beautiful metal bays. They're relatively high quality and they just slap in and lock in just like that. In the XL, those are actually hot swap, and so you can fit them into a SATA data and power header on the back of the caddy. But these are just little bays you can put drives in, 2 of them fit. And that is hidden behind this. You could also plug in a second power supply in this area by removing the drive cage. And as in sandwich style wide cases like this, power supply is vertical with its intake on the side of the case in the rear. To show you what's in the back. I'm not going to remove the big header plate, let's call it a shield plate here. I'm not going to remove this guy because it takes 3 screws here, and I don't love that. Having this be a toolless protector plate would have been better. I understand why they use screws, so you can really slam the cables into place, but it's a hallmark of good cable management when you get those cables to stay in place without having to use this thing at all. You can see I've haphazardly stuck the Lian Li streamer controller up there, and the rest of everything is in a nice tight trunk of cables behind this protector. They allow you to mount things like drives, SSDs, or even HDDs potentially to this plate. I don't recommend that. It's pretty chaotic and annoying, and then having something connected to this after you unscrew it, you have to then mess with it in a really, really obnoxious way. So I would stick to placing drives in this lovely metal caddy here, where again, 2 mechanical drives fit, or 2 SSDs, potentially more if you mount each other with double-sided tape. You can also fit drives if you wanted to above your power supply for some SSDs, and you could of course tape them up above the caddy there in this wide space where you'll see me putting the Corsair QL controllers. I like this setup, ends up being good for cabling, and most of the I/O just sort of seamlessly flows over the top here underneath this retention guard and then down to meet the rest of the case. We're showing this to you fully built. Obviously it's easier to see some of these things in a freshly unboxed case, but this is a cool perspective because very, very seldom are you shown how everything fits in the back. Obviously power supply vertical is great to see because it means you can plug in the power supply fully cabled by just slotting it into the back instead of having to do some complicated mechanism where you stuff it into the back of a case, cover some plate over it, and then have to screw in that plate. It really makes it easy to cable up the back here, as you can work on the power supply outside of the case and then just slap it in sideways right there. No fuss, no muss, nice and simple. Over here, I've added a fan hub so I can have my 6 case fans in addition to my 3 radiator fans. I'm gonna have my 6 case fans powered more easily. I would have loved to see this case come with a fan hub. It comes with neither fans nor fan hubs. All it comes with is the front I/O. So as far as internal cabling and hubs go, I would love to see that. You don't even get that in the XL version of the case. So at this price point here, in this mid-tower segment, not really expected to see that, but some competitors like Fantex will begin to offer you that fan header in things like the Fantex 719, the Evolve X, and the Pro 2. So that aside, that would be one of my most desired features. Given the extra fan compatibility, I would really like to see that header available in the future, or at least more areas to mount things like that. I really find once you're putting a lot of cables in the back underneath that guard plate, it's really tough to mount things like fan hubs, like RGB hubs. And that's why I stuck them above the hard drive caddy there in the back. So pretty clean up front, but you can really start to get confused in the back. And I wouldn't give this the easiest possible build score for a new builder, especially because it comes with no fans by default. This is more of an enthusiast case, although it is still occupying a pretty approachable price point, right around $130 to $150. It's a great spot for a mid-tower like this with all of its massive compatibility, even with its few shortcomings. Really good quality, usually available right near the MSRP or a little bit above, but certainly worth it. And a sub $200 case, you get a good amount for your money, and you don't have to worry about removing stuff. It's really an open platform where you can put your beautiful custom touches and your personal touches on the Lian Li. It's a nice, open-ended, clean slate that you can work on. So from us, it's going to get a pretty high score. You should expect this to be a case that a lot of customers like for its aesthetics, for its wide open nature, and the 2 glass panels, which of course will do well to fit etchings if you're doing any customization like that. That has been the tour of the Lian Li O11 Dynamic. It also comes in green, blue, yellow, and black. The XL additionally comes in silver, but not in those other fun colors, green, blue, and yellow. Those colors are only available, I believe, at Micro Center specifically. The general colors for this are white and black. So ordinarily, you should only expect it available in white and black, but those are definitely fine colors to have, and certainly what the majority of the audience probably wants. The Lian Li O11 Dynamic regular size gets a 7 for pricing with a $139 MSRP. It's right around the middle of the computer price segment. In terms of material and quality, with largely stainless steel components and a lot of tempered glass, this easily earns itself a 7 for materials and quality. Really, really excellently manufactured, and very few plastic parts that could break. As far as fan compatibility goes, the Lian Li O11 Dynamic gets a 9 for having 9 fans, 9 120mm fans in 3 bays. As far as drive bays go, this gets a 4 for only having 2 3.5-inch bays and a weird configuration for attaching SSDs to a mount that I don't like in the back panel. As far as airflow score goes, this gets an 8 or possibly a 9 for airflow, as the excellent bottom and side intakes provide lots of airflow, especially for the GPU at the bottom from those bottom fans, which not many cases have. It also supports a lot of radiators for liquid cooling. As far as styling goes, the fact that you can see the side panel fans and the 2 sides of tempered glass means you have a really cool aesthetic picture in the Lian Li O11 Dynamic. So this gets an 8 for styling. It's a very cool case. Uniqueness and fun factor in this case are also pretty high, again due to the styling marks and the unique support of that side bay of fans. It's also got really, really nice compatibility for liquid cooling. It's just a really weird, interesting design, especially with front glass. Most cases are closed up in the front, so for a fun factor, it gets a 7. Ease of building, with no included front fans and a fiddly back panel that really kind of is tight on cable management. The Lian Li O11 Dynamic gets a 5 for ease of building. Could be worse, but could be a lot easier, and is probably not a good very first case unless you're putting a lot of hardware inside. For options, the Lian Li Dynamic gets a 7. It fits a lot of hardware inside, and it comes in 5 unique, interesting, weird, fun colors. Also has vertical mount capacity, so it really is pretty good as far as options go. It also allows 2 power supplies in the back, which is a very unique combination. You don't see that in many places. So a 7 is the score there, possibly edging to an 8. As far as front I/O goes, the Dynamic gets a 7. It has 2 USB 3.0s, 1 USB Type-C, audio, and no RGB controls in the case, nothing else super fancy. So with those 3 main ports and a power button, it's going to get a 7 on its front I/O. Pretty standard. The XL has more with 4 USB 3.0s in the front. And the total score is... This has been the review of the Lian Li O11 Dynamic standard size. We'll have more amazing reviews coming at you real soon. Do not forget to subscribe. We make amazing custom PCs live every day on Twitch for beautiful customers, perhaps just like you. So we hope you enjoyed this case review. We'll have many, many more coming real soon. If you want to suggest cases for those reviews, please leave them in the comments or send us an email. We're always available. Thanks so much. We'll see you again real soon.